Donald Trump is not a history buff. He has some difficulty even recalling recent history, but nothing made that clearer than a recent Fox News interview where Trump misidentified a statue in the White House. So let's take a look at how that went down.
Every president chooses what to put around him. You chose Lincoln as a bust and Lincoln as a picture. You chose Andrew Jackson. And is that Teddy Roosevelt underneath?
Yes.
Yeah.
And by the way, they're taking down the statue of
Teddy Roosevelt.
Teddy Roosevelt. So explain that one.
Okay. So the statue is not a statue of Teddy Roosevelt. Doesn't even look anything like Teddy Roosevelt. It's actually a statue of a cowboy from the 1890s. The Metropolitan Museum of Art and the White House Historical Association both identified the statue. So the sculpture in the Oval Office of the White House is called the Bronco Buster and was originally designed in 1895 by Frederick Remington. The sculpture was particularly inspired by Remington's own illustration in an 1888 issue of Century magazine, which accompanied an article by Teddy Roosevelt.
Okay, so look, it's I can understand how you'd make that mistake, and
no.
Hold on.
No.
And Teddy Roosevelt were part of the Rough Riders, which sounds dirty, and this guy's a Bronco Buster, which also sounds dirty. And I get all of that, right? But it is in the Oval Office. It's in your office, right? And you presumably chose to put it in there. And apparently you had no curiosity and never looked to see who it was. But what I found amusing about this, among the many things, is first of all, Kilmeade gets it wrong. He's like, yeah, that's Roosevelt, right? And then he like does a follow-up question. Like it almost made me think, wait, is Kilmeade trolling him? Like, did he try to get him to say it was Roosevelt by accident? I don't know. Anyway, but my favorite part was Trump's like, yes, that's Roosevelt. He doesn't know. We all know he doesn't know. But being a pathological liar that he is, he's out with that answer right away. Yes, of course, that's Teddy Roosevelt.
Listen, as an admirer of interior design, like I can't imagine, because he's the president, it's the Oval Office. He can make decisions about what surrounds him in that room, right? I can't imagine, like, I'm not a big fan of busts or statues or like anything like that. So if someone, let's say an interior designer who's helping me decorate the Oval Office tells me like, hey, this, are you interested in the statue? I'd at least wanna know like, what is the significance of this statue? Like it's, of course, by the way, of course he said, yeah, it's Teddy Roosevelt. Of course he just said that. Because what's the other option, Cenk? He doesn't know. So do you expect Donald Trump of all people to admit that he doesn't know? That he's such a dummy that he never once even tried to question what that statue was. Like it's just, this is Donald Trump, this is who he is. He lacks any and all intellectual curiosity because if it's not about his bottom line and if it's not about his own personal greed and narcissism, why would he care? He does not care about anything other than himself, period.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't know, I'm a human being. I would have had a human reaction like, oh, that's so funny. It's been sitting there for 3 years. I never checked to see if it was Teddy Roosevelt, right? And everybody would be like, oh, that's perfectly normal, right? But he's like, nope, yes, it is. Yes, it's Teddy. I knew it. Okay, so now I'm not done though, because he went on, this is awesome. He went on to complain about people tearing down statues. That's part of why that came up. And he said, they're ripping down things. They have no idea what they're ripping down.
Oh my God, I know, I love it. Actually, JR put together a video of Trump's history lesson fail, and we should watch it. Let's take a look.
You have to understand history, and you have to understand the culture and so many other aspects of our country. And people can study that and they can hate it, and let's all hate it. But you can't take down George Washington's statue, and half of our country is named after Washington. You can't. We have to remember the heritage, that the culture of our country.
Yep, we have to understand the heritage of our country. I agree, Trump. I agree.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. He sounds hilarious to me. I can't believe that anyone looks at him and hears him and goes, man, that is a natural born leader. I can't wait for him to tell me what to do. I will follow his orders. Half the country is named after Washington. You can't do it. First of all, they're not tearing down Washington statues. They're mainly tearing down Confederate statues of people like Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was the Grand Wizard, the first Grand Wizard of the KKK. Robert E. Lee, who was actually a terrible human being who relished whipping his slaves, ones that he was legally supposed to let go and didn't. And so this idea that they were gentlemen is total nonsense. Trump also keeps talking about, well, there's a wonderful art on those statues. They look so beautiful. Okay, assuming you were right, what if there was a gorgeous statue of Hitler? Would you just go, well, I mean, it's a great artist, right? It's a great depiction of Hitler. I got to keep it up. Of course not. And that's part of German history and German heritage. Doesn't mean you should have Hitler statues all over the place. And just every part of it, he says, oh, if we don't remember history, we'll repeat it. Wait a minute. Okay, here, I want to read you his exact quote because it's amazing. He said, my message is that we have a great country. We have the greatest country on earth. We have a heritage, we have a history. We should learn from the history. And if you don't understand your history, you'll go back to it again. You will go right back to it. You have to learn. Think of it, take away that whole era and you'll go back to it sometime. People won't know about it.
I just feel like he listened to like one episode of Rogan with like a right winger on it, and he's just like parroting the same talking point that I've heard right wingers make on Rogan's podcast. Like you got to preserve history so history doesn't repeat itself. By the way, you can totally do that by not having these statues on public lands, right? So if you want to take a Confederate statue and put it in a museum where people go specifically to learn about history, then that makes sense. But when you consider why a lot of these Confederate statues were erected in the first place, during the civil rights movement in the 1960s as a giant middle finger to black people, then you understand why there's an issue with these Confederate statues on public lands.
Okay, here I'm gonna prove him wrong again definitively. First of all, where does history belong? I don't know, maybe in a history book where we would read about it, and you don't have to celebrate Goebbels, and you don't have to celebrate Nathan Bedford Forrest in order to learn history. But the part where you know they're hypocrites, okay, great, then let's do it. Let's put in the history books the true horrors of slavery. The true horrors of lynchings, and let's describe it in excruciating detail. Because believe me, it was excruciating when it happened. About the little divots that they would carve out in the holes in the whipping stations, because that's where they need to put the bellies of the pregnant woman that they were going to whip. The whip would tear the skin off their back, and then Robert E. Lee personally put salt in the wounds to make it hurt more. And he did that to little children because they once caught a fish without asking permission. So I can go on and on. You want to put that history in the history books? Then they'll say, oh no, you can't have kids reading that. You can't have kids. How about college? How about graduates? No, you can't do that. You can't do that. You're trying to smear America. Wait a minute. Do you want to preserve the history, or don't you want to preserve the history? So if you don't know that history, you might repeat it again. The way that Trump phrased it is this insane circular logic of, if you don't celebrate Confederate generals with giant statues, then we'll have slavery again. And that makes no sense at all. When you sign up for a spend and save account at aspiration.com/TYT, we will plant 10 trees. Let's save the planet together.